We're back on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network after a fun Players Weekend in the MLB. Got a lot to talk about today on Back to the Dugout, so welcome back, everybody. As always, I'm your host, Toby Schulman. No co-host today. No Drew Shula, unfortunately. First day of classes here at FAU, so he had some other obligations to attend to, obviously. Fortunately for me, my classes don't start till tomorrow, so I got the time today to give you guys all your news from the MLB across the weekend. And we'll start looking at some other stuff as well that came out this weekend. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Like I've already said, Little League Classic, Yankees Tigers. That was an absolutely fun game to watch, despite the end result for me. But I had a great time watching that. Great to see what was going on for the kids there. We'll talk about that to lead off the show today. But then we're going to get into the Yankee closing pitcher issue, which I think is going to be a very interesting one to talk about. Who can maybe take over that closer role for the end of the year, if it's anybody. We're going to talk about Otani closing in on the 40-40 season and then whether or not he can reach 50-50. And if not, who is somebody that can hit that 50-50 mark at some point in their career that's currently an active player. That's going to be a fun little top five for me to give you guys there. And then we're going to recap my series of the weekend, which was the Royals taking on the Reds in Great American. Really big sweep there for the Kansas City Royals. And then we're going to talk about some of the best moments from Players Weekend, more particularly the best bats that I saw, giving you my five favorites that I saw from across the entire league, especially the ones that were posted on Twitter. So shout out for all the MLB teams for keeping us up to date with that and keeping us up to speed with what the players were customizing, because they didn't always shed too much of a light on it. So it was nice to see other teams really taking a step up in marketing their players and their creativity during Players Weekend. But then we got to talk about the new updated top 100 prospect list. Not going to be breaking down all 100, obviously, but going to be talking about ones that surprised me as to where they landed and where I thought they should have been kind of ranked, and why I was surprised that they landed where they did on MLB Pipeline's list. Not going to be talking about anybody else's, because MLB Pipeline's kind of the bread and butter, the standard, I guess you could say, for prospect lists, especially nowadays. And then we'll recap the standings, the wild card races. We'll tease the power rankings a little bit for tomorrow night, and give you guys a few bets to get your night started here. But let's get right into this and get into the Little League Classic, because I was debating talking about the Little League World Series in this episode. I think we'll talk about that a little bit down the road, especially when it ends. I don't think it's over for another week or two. But it's always fun to see the Little League Classic. I can't remember when it was instituted, but to see it now is a lot of fun. The fact that they play a neutral site game in Williamsport, you could tell it really just brings the most fun out of all the players. I personally really just enjoyed everything about it. These neutral site games, whether they're the Field of Dreams games, games in another country like London, Mexico, or even just other neutral site games. Like I know they did one in, I think it was Alabama this year, to kind of represent the Negro Leagues. I think that was a really, really solid neutral site game. And I just think anything they could do to try and grow the game with using these neutral sites, I think it's really working. Not only does it bring the community together, but they really just integrate the players into it very, very well, especially in the Little League Classic here. You saw them land on the tarmac and then immediately greeted by teams competing in the World Series, fans there as spectators for just the entire tournament. You see the players walking the facilities, guys like Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, Jazz Chisholm getting mobbed. And, that's kind of something I wanted to talk about. I loved seeing Jazz out there, not being in the field and not having at-bats and being able to give a lot of the kids probably what they wanted. He knew that, I'm sure, and just took it upon himself to be one of the best role models you could have ever been during the Little League Classic. He was walking around the stands, just sitting with players in between innings, just like one of their buddies. It was a really cool thing to see. Jazz not giving us on-field content, so he was providing with the off-field content, being in the booth during the Little League games, going on the field beforehand to give away merch, and filming for his I think it was sliding glove company that he has. He was filming on a vintage camera out there on the field. So I'm excited to see what content he brings together from that. But everything off the field was awesome. I mean, I think a lot of people maybe just overlook the Little League Classic just because of what point it is in the season for these MLB teams. It is so late in the season, and it's so hard to stay true and watch every one of these games. This is why you watch games this late into the summer. It's a lot of fun like this one. You see the kids chanting at Juan Soto. It was just really just such a cool experience, I know, for all these kids. I know I was jealous for sure. So hopefully one day I can get out there and cover that game for you guys, because that would be really cool. Definitely a really cool experience to go and experience some baseball up there in Williamsport. But it's thundering here in South Florida, so hopefully that stays away from Williamsport, and these kids can finish up some of their games, because I know that's been a bit of an issue. But let's talk about the actual game as a whole, because, like I said, it was a really fun game, very low scoring, but that's exactly what we thought we would get out of a Tariq Scoble start. We didn't think we would get really home runs at all. And I think it's actually only fitting the way the Yankees scored the initial run in the game. Gleyber Torres scored on a pass ball, like a Little League style pass ball, getting behind the backstop and just unfortunately reaching the backstop for Gleyber to be able to score. And that was not something I expected Tariq Scoble to really do. He kind of hesitated on running home to cover, and I think Gleyber saw that and immediately took advantage. Just kind of shows, I'm sure a lot of the coaches that were there used that as a little bit of a lesson to their players that were watching the major leaguers. So pretty interesting note there. But, I guess you could look at it as a kind of boring game without guys like Jazz playing, and with, the runs not being scored. Should they have used juice balls? Maybe. We know they did in the Field of Dreams games, but Scoble dealt. I mean, it was going to be hard to hit off of him regardless. 6.0 innings pitched with 5 Ks, 3 hits, and 1 earned run. We struggled with the control a little bit. And, we see this all the time with the really good pitchers in the league, that when they struggle with control, they still manage to put together really solid outings. This is exactly what happened with Tariq Scoble here. Saw it happen with Luis Gil, where he walked 5 against the Angels and still put together a fairly solid outing. He walked 4 against the Yankees in the Little League Classic, still managed to go 6 innings and get 5 strikeouts while only letting up 1 earned run. So great start for Tariq Scoble. The AL Cy Young favorites just running away with it at this point, and this start didn't really hurt that cause at all. But on the other side of the Yankees pitching staff, Marcus Stroman had a really, really solid outing. His second really solid outing in a row, so that's a very good positive note to see if you are a Yankee fan. 6 innings pitched with 4 hits and 0 runs. So he outpitched Tariq Scoble, which is not something I would have expected to have said after this Tigers series. But good for Stroman, I guess. Unfortunately, didn't come away with the win there. Now, Jason Dominguez, he got called up as the Yankees' 27th man, which meant that he was able to play in this game, and then he gets sent back down to the AAA level, or just doesn't play for the Yankees roster until I believe it was September 1st, when team rosters are allowed to expand again. That would be something someone else in chat would probably have to double check for me. That was something I just saw. Forgot to write it down, but I'm almost positive that's actually how it works. But he double clutches the winning throw, or the losing throw, I should say. He had a play that he could have gotten the winning runner out at home, double clutched it, was looking at second, just didn't know the situation. It happens. It's a young player who doesn't really know major league situations the best and hasn't played there in a year. I don't know how much he expected to really get that call up as the 27th man during that game, but I don't know. I didn't like Dominguez's performance yesterday. I don't think anybody did, but I think you'd be crazy to say that you're not excited about Dominguez still and what he's going to do for the New York Yankees this season. He's going to be a savior, hopefully. But how about Giancarlo Stanton? A couple hits for himself on the night, and actually had a funny one that he poked out to right field that wasn't caught by Torkelson. And who's that in right field? I don't know if that was Parker Meadows, but no, I don't think it was Parker Meadows, but it was someone out in right field. It's blanking on me. It might have been Parker Meadows. But speaking of Parker Meadows, he actually managed to be one of the main reasons why the Tigers won that game. Colt Keith, Parker Meadows, they were huge. And then Jace Young, he was also huge. Just being able to get them back in and keep them in and then give them the lead. Tigers never backed down despite it not looking very, very good. And, they had a really easy, I guess, route at the late game stage to take a W here because of how bad the Yankees bullpen's been. But it's all right. It's not all right, actually. The Yankees bullpen is just not shaping up to be very good right now, especially in the closing pitching department. But it's all right in the fact that Jazz Chisholm should be back in about 10 days for the Yankees. If you guys didn't see on social media, a fan commented at him saying that he looked healthy to get back on the field, and he replied saying, "I am, but I got to wait that 10 days." So it'll be great to get Jazz Chisholm back when that 10 days is up, and I'm going to be holding him to it personally because you don't say that type of thing on social media and not just come back right after the 10 days. So we'll see what he actually ends up doing after the couple weeks of on the IL, but that'll be a huge, huge benefit to the Yankees to get him back after that 10-day period, after what was probably the worst scare of the season, hearing that he had a UCL injury. Because we all know how that goes with guys like Jason Dominguez last year. But moving on to the next Little League Classic in 2025, it's going to be between the New York Mets, getting their first appearance in the Little League Classic since 2018. They're going to be taking on the Seattle Mariners. And I think this is great for the Pacific Northwest because this is a region that gets recognition every single season in the Little League World Series. Teams like Washington, Oregon usually dominate that region, and they don't get the chance to really see any more recognition from the region. So having the Mariners come in will be great. Getting these kids a chance to meet guys that they probably will never get to meet because of how far they may be regionally located away from Seattle. There's not much baseball up there, and there's really good baseball up there. So I think they really picked a great matchup there. I think the Mariners are going to be a really good team again next year, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to have guys like Randy Arozarena be in the Little League Classic, to have Julio Rodriguez be there. I know that's just going to be so amazing for all of the like Latino teams and Hispanic teams, all those teams. I know that's going to be a huge benefit for them as well, to be able to meet a guy like Julio Rodriguez. And yeah, I mean, it'll be a fun matchup, I'm sure. But now we got to talk about something not as fun, which is the Yankees bullpen. Now they're having some serious issues, and going into October, I have just no idea who's going to be the closer for them. Fans are up in arms about Klay Holmes being the closer. They just don't want it at all. And I'm going to show you the depth chart here, and then we're going to get into all these pitchers and who could possibly be a closer in October, because it's not like you can really pick anybody up and just stick them in that closing pitcher role and say, be good, go get us some wins. Yeah, that's not going to happen, and we know that. But here's the depth chart for you guys. It's really not that bad. Like, it really is not that bad. Klay Holmes is obviously public enemy number one in New York right now, but Tommy Kahnle, Luke Weaver are very decent pitchers in their own respects. Mark Leiter Jr. is not bad at all. He's got great swing and miss stuff that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Jake Cousins has been really good this season, just doesn't have qualified stats enough for me to really say whether or not he could be a closer, especially this late in the season. Tim Hill, Tim Mesa, and Michael Tonkin. Tonkin's really solid. We'll talk about all of these in the future, like next 5 minutes or whatever, when I am able to run through all these. But you see the injuries there at the bottom. Ian Hamilton, Loazica, and Lou Trevino. I don't know if Trevino is going to end up getting back. I think it was said that he was starting a rehab assignment this week. Not too sure about that, but Ian Hamilton, I imagine, should be back, and Loazica is out for the season. Huge blow to the Yankees pitching staff, as always. But let's talk about who can actually be a Yankee closer. Now, I have all of these guys that you're seeing on the depth chart. I've got, besides the injured players, I have all of their Baseball Savant pages loaded up and all of their percentile ranking statistics loaded up for you guys, and I'm going to pull them up. And we're just going to talk about each one, who I feel like who could be like a genuine solid closer. But you see all of the roles that they're currently having right now. Guys like Luke Weaver and Tommy Kahnle being setups, and then middle relief being Cousins, Leiter. That's not really the case, but let's just take a look at Mesa first, because, I mean, there's really no shot to me that he can be a closer, because look at that fastball velocity. Look at the pitch mix. I mean, this guy's really not good, man. The pitch mix is not there at all. The velocity is not there at all. I don't like sinkers that are low velo, and I don't like, the slider velo isn't bad, but I don't like fastball velocity and sinkers that are the exact same when they're low in the 90s. Granted, he's a lefty on the mound, and the velo is going to be tough compared to a right-handed pitcher. That's not something you could have as a closer at all. So good middle relief, like maybe. I don't think that should be anything the Yankees look for in a closer. It just won't go well for them. But moving on to our next guy here, we've got one of my favorite pitchers on this team, honestly. It's Luke Weaver. I think he's just so solid. And, I would say he could be a closer. And to be honest, I would like to give him a shot. I don't think Luke Weaver is a bad pitcher at all to throw in that closer spot. I think that he's got a lot of really solid attributes to him. He's a great in middle relief. He's great at eating innings. So you can really he's so versatile on the mound, I feel like. It's just the pitch mix there. I don't love it. The fastball velo is fine. It's well above league average. The changeup I like too. And same with the cutter. I think that his pitch mix isn't bad at all. But I think when you're a closer, you need that dominant pitch, a pitch where you can really strike out guys. And quite frankly, having your strikeout rate being the 80th percentile isn't really doing it for me to think that you could be a closer at the major league level, especially in the Bronx in October. So the chase rate's great. I think the whiff rate's also good, but the K rate's not there. Too much hard hit contact really with Weaver and not enough ground ball contact. It's the little things that you got to look at with Luke Weaver here. Great pitcher, but I just don't think he's built for that closer role in New York. And I think a lot of people would agree with me. I think he's solid for a setup pitcher, but just not there for the closer. But moving on to one of their newer pickups in the trade deadline, way before it, but he was kind of picked up around then. It's Tim Hill, who I really don't like. Tim Hill, man. I just really don't. He's got decent numbers. I mean, other than the chase rate being like really bad and the K and the whiff rate being really bad, people don't barrel the ball up really well against him. And you could probably see at the top left, like look at his windup, submariner. You're not going to be able to barrel that up very easily. The pitch mix really sucks for a closer, so he's not going to be a closer. I'll spoil that right now for you guys. He's just not going to be a closer. But he's got decent stuff. He's got decent, okay numbers. Just nothing I would really consider throwing in the closer role. You could argue that the weird, wonky release is good to have as your closer, and I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think you could think of guys like Darren O'Day and maybe some other closing pitchers who had just weird, wacky windups. I think Tim Hill actually could be a decent argument for that, but I don't think he'll really see any real chances really as getting a closer or any real save opportunities leading towards the end of the season. Someone that I do think actually has a shot of being a closer on this team is their newest trade deadline acquisition from the Chicago Cubs, which is Mark Leiter Jr. While the ERA really isn't good, the whiff and the K rate are. I mean, they're very good. And then you look at the pitch mix there on the top right. I mean, what's not to like about that? While he doesn't throw a fastball, he throws a really good sinker, a great split finger, great curve, a great sweeper, and then just a really solid cutter to tie everything in. I mean, I really like Leiter. I think that his underlying metrics are really, really good. The off-speed run value is really, really great compared to a lot of the other pitchers that you'll see probably facing the Yankees now. I think just that chase, whiff, and K rate is so good that he's not really worth not giving at least a chance or two for the closing spot. I mean, I don't think he will be a good closer. I don't like really some of the stuff I've seen from him in the late game. I think he can get pretty erratic sometimes as well. You see that walk rate's not very good, and the hard hit contact is almost below average as well. So, I mean, I would like to see a little bit better ground ball contact as well from Mark Leiter, but hopefully this is stuff that will all improve over time as, we keep progressing into the end of the season. He hasn't been on the team for that long at the end of the day. Somebody I've really been impressed with, who I just really haven't seen many people talking about, is this Jake Cousins kid from originally the Washington Nationals. The 30-year-old has honestly been really, really good, and you see his numbers there. They're not qualified, but he does have a decent pitch mix to work with here as a closer. I mean, a slider, sinker, fastball is not a bad combo at all, especially when taking into account that 2 out of 3 of those pitches are above league average in terms of velocity. And then you've got, a slightly slower slider, which is if it's working, who cares how fast it is? If it's sweeping like off of a table and these guys can't hit it, who cares how fast it is, especially when you have a guy who throws mid-90s on the fastball. Um, I just don't know. I don't think he's got really enough service time under his belt to give him a shot at being the closer. But I mean, the metrics, given they're not qualified, are really really good. The chase rate, the whiff rate, the K rate are all there. Yankees just really can't find a closer who has decent control. That's really the bottom line. But I mean, he Cousins is good. Like, he is good. You see the 2.76 ERA across 4 seasons and a 2.10 for the Yankees in 2024. I mean, yeah, this kid has definitely got some good stuff to him. He's 30 years old, so he's not that old in terms of pitcher longevity, but I think he's worth giving a try, and I think he actually would give a lot of pleasant surprises to Yankee fans across the country if they happen to throw him in that spot. But there are a couple other people that I think deserved it over him. Leiter kind of being one of them, and the current closer actually being the other. But I think Cousins would be a really fun attempt at a new closer. Maybe if we're up a game on the Orioles or something, and we have a little bit to work with and we want to try something new, but I don't know. He may not have enough time under his belt with the Yankees to give him that spot yet. Moving on, we have Tommy Kahnle here coming in next, who just isn't that type of a guy, in my opinion, to be a closer. The velo's not there, really. Pitch mix is. I think it's honestly really solid for a closer, especially when you have 4 pitches and you've got a good whiff rate and great average exit velocity. I mean, I think he would honestly be a lot better than people give him credit for. Local South Florida guy going to Lynn. I think he would honestly be really, really solid. But I'm seeing an interesting comment here. Inning limit, give me Gill down the stretch as the closer. I think if they would have limited his innings, I think they would have done it already, honestly. I know that there's still kind of talk about limiting his innings as we get further into the season. But I think right now at this point, Hill's your best pitcher. There's really nothing you can say to me that would make me disagree. I mean, Cole's obviously the best, but Hill across the whole season has really just performed as the most consistent. And I think that, taking that away from the Yankees in the playoffs makes them such a worse team. They do get Clark back, but they do also get Cody Poteet back as well, hopefully. So you could make an argument for that for sure. Not my least favorite take in the world. I just don't know if the Yankees are really willing to get rid of a starting pitcher just to throw him in a closer role. And I don't think Luis Gill really has the command to do it either. Like I said earlier in the show, he had that 5-walk outing against the Angels. You're closer and you give up 5 walks, you're not winning a game. So I would personally not really stray Luis Gill from what he's doing just because of an innings limit. I think, if you want to make him an opener, that would be a lot better. But no, a closing pitcher, I don't think that would really be beneficial. I think the velocity and just the kind of just fun we have watching Luis Gill makes that a more fun take than it really is. But I think I'd rather have a guy like Kahnle in that spot. Just some not very great numbers out of him in terms of things like fastball velocity and walk rate, but the ERA is great. I personally just like having Kahnle being like a setup guy or a middle relief guy because he's really solid in that role. But we'll see if they give him a closer spot. I would be comfortable giving him the ball for the last inning. If that says anything, I would be very comfortable giving Tommy Kahnle the ball. Probably more than a lot of the other guys. But this is probably the most comfortable I've been handing a guy the baseball in the 9th inning compared to anyone else that I've talked to from the Yankee bullpen already. But now we move on to the last guy before getting into our current closer. And it's Michael Tonkin, who I could have sworn was going to be given this job a couple weeks ago before I even got back down to South Florida. I believe it was against the Red Sox he had a save, and I could have sworn that was his audition to be the closer. And in all apparentness, it just wasn't. I really don't know why he hasn't been given more of a leash to be the closer. The pitch mix is great for one. I mean, the walk rate's not great either. The underlying metrics aren't great, but we've seen him do it in game before. So I don't think you can really tell me that he won't be a good closer if you give him the chance. I think he could really turn up his game when he's given the spot in the 9th inning. the pitch mix to me is just worth giving it a try. A sweeper sinker combo along with a slider fastball. I think that's really difficult for hitters, especially very late in the game. So I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to take the job away from this guy, regardless of how bad he's playing. Klay Holmes, what is it? He's blown 10 saves now. The record the Yankees would have if they had a guy like Mason Miller or Emmanuel Clase would probably be just absurd. But unfortunately, they have Klay Holmes, and he is the hardest pitcher to watch in the entire major leagues. And you look at his 2024 numbers, they don't even look that bad. The 2.88 ERA in 51 games, 26 saves. He hasn't had a terrible season. He just gives Yankee fans a heart attack every time he pitches. Now, the ground ball contact's really good. The barrel rate's decent. But the swing and miss stuff is not good enough at all. And he's been leaving his sinker way too over the plate, in my opinion. That's something that I've noticed every single time he blows a save. It just seems like he doesn't locate with his sinker at all. And, while the walk rate isn't terrible, it's obviously better than what we've seen from a lot of the other guys in the bullpen. You're not going to take this closing spot away from this guy. Because if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at these stats like this, you better believe Aaron Boone and the Yankees are looking at it as well. I don't care what anybody says. They know these metrics. They know these numbers better than anybody. They know they really don't have a better option in terms of this. They know they don't have a better option in terms of the numbers that we're seeing. So I don't think Klay Holmes gets booted from this spot. It sucks, and it sucks for Yankee fans because I know exactly how they feel. It's not happening. Klay Holmes is staying the closer until we see the walk rate probably get slightly worse, or the ground ball rate get slightly worse. You're going to see him be the closer. They don't care about other stuff. I mean, if they're looking at these numbers and they're comparing them to everyone else, it's not even a question to them. Klay Holmes, he'll be the closer for the rest of the season. Yankee fans aren't going to like it. I don't like it, but it honestly is the right thing for them. He just really needs to get it going again because Yankee fans remember how good he was to start the season. I don't think there's much of a debate in that. I just would really, really want to see Klay Holmes turn it up a bit, and I don't know if that's going to happen because he seems to just shy away from like just I don't even know. He just seems to shy away from like a big moment, which is so out of character for a Yankees closer, especially when you take into account the last closer they had was Mariano Rivera. But yeah, that's enough talk about the Yankees for today. Almost halfway through the show here, but we're going to talk about real quick before I get into a little bit of a break here. I might not actually even break it up. I think we're just going to go through the break at this point. Shohei Otani, he's closing in on a 40-40 season. And it makes me wonder whether or not it's possible for Shohei at this point to earn a 50-50 season. I believe that would be the first time anybody would ever total a 50-50 season. I think Acuna had 40-70 in his MVP campaign. So this would be unlike anything we've ever seen. Shohei doesn't pitch, doesn't field. Yeah, I'll do something at the plate and on the base pass that has never been done before. That's basically what you're getting out of Shohei Otani. If he can't do one thing, he's just going to do everything else better. It's kind of like when people say like deaf people have like other like heightened senses, or blind people have other heightened senses. Shohei gets heightened skill in literally every single other aspect of his game when the other ones aren't possibly able to be like improved. So it's just nuts stuff from Shohei Otani. 39 home runs, 37 stolen bases right now. With just over a month, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I think Shohei could really have a legitimate shot at it. If he gets hot at the plate, I think just the only thing stopping him is that the home runs are taking away from him being able to actually get stolen bases. But if he's hitting a lot of home runs, he's probably going to get intentionally walked as well. So I think that down the stretch, we're going to see Shohei actually get it, and I think it's going to be really cool to see. But got me thinking of who else could possibly record one 50-50 season like in the next decade. And there are some that I think are actually very likely here. And there are some that I think would have to have a lot of different factors come in and have to help them try and just get to this point. But it'll be difficult to see for some of these guys. But number 5, this is a long shot. I mean, Jazz Chisholm, if he gets hot at the plate, utilizes that short porch, I mean, he could maybe hit 40 home runs in a season. I don't think he's hitting 50, but We see guys all the time have outlier home run seasons. If Jazz has one maybe 4 years from now in his prime, it's possible. He'd have to stay healthy and play probably every single game, but he would have to have an 1,000 OPS for sure. Really unlikely, but we don't know what Jazz Chisholm in his prime really is going to look like yet, so we'll just have to see about that. We now know he'll be utilizing that short porch for a couple of years to come. Number 4 spot, I had Diamondbacks outfielder Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll, he's having a down year this season, but he probably won't ever have a season this bad again. It seems really unlikely right now, obviously, but he's got the speed and the power. One of like 3 speed power guys that I'd say has the ability to do this. To me, the 50 stolen bases would be the easiest part for him. If he can hit at an elite clip again, that's really the only question there for Corbin Carroll, who's playing a lot better lately. I'm sure next year we'll see him have a 30-30 season, hopefully. And then when he hits the tail end of his prime, maybe we'll start to see him hitting for more power, and then still have that elite speed on the base pass as well. But mentioned this guy earlier when I was talking about Shohei, and I think throwing Ronald Acuna in the top 3 is only right. In healthy years, I mean, he's near it. Like in the home runs and stolen bases, he's really near it. Stolen bases for sure is not the issue. It's really just home runs. And I'm going to pull up his baseball reference page again, because when he's healthy, I mean, it really is close. Like I'm surprised he didn't come close to doing it last season. He had 41 home runs, so he was really close. And then he had 41 home runs again in 2019. So Acuna, I mean, he could definitely do it. In terms of age, he's only 26, so he definitely has time before hitting the end of his prime that I think he could go out and get a 50-50 season. It's just going to be hard to break that 41 home run threshold for him, obviously, as you could see. I mean, he in 2023, he led the league in plate appearances, at bats, runs, and hits, along with stolen bases, on base percentage, OPS. He led the NL and the league in this, not necessarily the MLB and all of these stats. But yeah, you could just see how elite he was, and he came really, really close. He was 9 home runs away from doing it. So that makes me kind of think, he'll be there with the stolen bases probably every year, but maybe not the home runs. Someone who I kind of think of in the same regard is Bobby Witt Jr. He hits pretty much using all sides of the field and using triples, doubles, singles, and home runs. So he's a jack of all trades on the base pass when he comes up to the plate. He just needs to have a power surge one season, and it may take away from the other numbers, because this is a guy who loves to hit like 20 home runs, 20 doubles, 20 triples. This is a guy who's going to love doing that pretty much every year. He's going to have to hit 50 home runs and probably like 10 less doubles and triples. But it could happen. Like tail end of the prime, he's got the speed still and a little bit more weight to him. I mean, it could happen. I just don't know, because of how much he really does utilize the entire field. Kind of the same thing for Ellie De La Cruz, who was my kind of number 1 pick for this type of themed ranking, the 50-50 season themed ranking. But Ellie's got that exit velocity in him, we already know, and then he's got the speed. He leads in stolen bases already. I mean, he's already over 50 stolen bases. He just has to get the power there. And, I mean, looking at his numbers right now, he led the league in stolen bases when I last checked at 59. It's still currently that. He's got 21 home runs. So imagine he struck out like 130 times and hit like 10 more home runs at this point in the year. People would be talking about it in a much more serious manner. I think when you get Ellie De La Cruz, who is currently 22 years old, to the point where Ronald Acuna is, I think you're going to have a lot more seasons where you're looking at his baseball reference and you're like, yeah, that guy was close. He's going to get a 50-50 season. If Shohei's the first to get it, I'm thinking Ellie De La Cruz is going to be the next one to get it. He's really the only one that I think has the combination of just insane exit velocity and speed. I thought about O'Neal Cruz, but he just doesn't have the speed to him. So Ellie De La Cruz, he's by far the most electric player in the league to watch that's not named Bobby Witt Jr. And I think that if Shohei is going to be the first one to get that 50-50 season, I think it's really only a fair shot to give it to Ellie for the second one. But that was kind of just a little fun thing that I had in mind to talk about, to kind of bring us through the middle part of this show. But now we got to recap my series of the weekend, which was the Royals heading into Great American Ballpark to take on the Cincinnati Reds. Huge series for both of these teams, who were both fighting in the wild card spots in both of their leagues in the NL and the AL. And the Royals, they really took advantage. Bobby Witt Jr., like I said, was going to be special this weekend, and that's exactly what he was. He continues to just be on an absolute tear and just rival Judge for what could possibly be an AL MVP. But his numbers this year have been incredible, and not only that, but they've been really, really good just in the last 7 days as a whole. You have him posting up a slash line that's 409, 519, 909, and a 1428 OPS. 9 hits, 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 22 at-bats across 6 games the last 7 days for Bobby Witt. It's been an absolutely unreal tear for him. Now they're only 3 games back of the first place for the AL Central. Who knows if they're actually going to be able to catch up with the Guardians. The Twins are in their place as well. It's going to be tough, man, but I really think they can do it. Recapping the series game by game, Michael Lorenzen, he put together a really solid 5.2 innings pitch start against his former team. Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, they both go yard, 3 RBI night for Vinny P. 7-1 dub for the Kansas City Royals. Game 2, Royals come out and they shine in Game 2, putting up 13 runs. Darren Blanco, he hit 7 RBIs with a grand slam and 2 home runs to help Kansas City take that game and the series on Saturday. And then the Royals would end up sweeping, keep a theme of holding the Reds to only 1 run in the third and final game. They did it across every single game of the series. Brady Singer put together an amazing 6-inning performance, and they got an 8-1 win courtesy of another Darren Blanco home run and another Vinny Pasquantino 3 RBI day. So it's not even just Bobby Witt Jr. We're seeing guys like Blanco do really, really well at the plate this series, hitting 3 home runs, and then Vinny Pasquantino also getting 6 RBIs in the series. So it's just production across the board from these guys, and then the pitchers obviously having solid starts in their own respects. The Reds don't have a bad rotation at all, especially the guys that the Royals face, but they made them look like they just weren't ready to be contending division rotation pieces, really, which was kind of crazy to me because I thought Andrew Abbott was going to shove. He only went 5 innings pitched. Nick Lodolo got rocked and only went 2.1 innings. And then Nick Martinez actually had a pretty solid outing, but did give up 3 runs. So, it's not like this Reds rotation's like elite by any means, but they definitely have some holes to work on. Andrew Abbott been really, really solid, just especially recently. He was kind of due for a little bit more of a poor start from a team that's red hot, but just unfortunate to see, I guess, the Reds rotation take a bit of a shot this weekend. Great series for the Kansas City Royals, though. Moving on to the best moments of the weekend from Players Weekend. These are mainly just custom bats that I'm going to be talking about because I think that's the coolest part usually of the whole Players Weekend thing. I've got my top 5 favorite bats that I'm going to be showing you guys. I've got them all pulled up here, and we're just going to go through them and kind of just talk about what I really like about each bat, because I think this is just a really cool thing to be able to show all the players have their own like creativity, their own personalities to bring it to the field, and not only just their cleats but their bats as well. It's really cool. It reminds me of MLB The Show. I wish they got the chance to do it all season, but it is what it is. Moving on to my first favorite bat that was custom used for MLB Players Weekend. It's Chucky Robinson III from the Chicago White Sox, and this bat to me is really, really cool. It's a Buzz Lightyear themed bat, and I saw a lot of Toy Story and like movie themed bats, but this was one of the cooler ones that I saw. You see all the just little detail on it. It just looks like it was just painted by hand. And then you've got the Chucky Robinson obviously printed and all the names and stuff on it. But I mean, Space Rangers logo, all of the stripes, the numbers, everything, the detail on it is just super cool. I think, this just is right into the look good, play good, or look good, feel good, play good thing. I absolutely love it for the players. And I think this is a really cool bat. Too bad he's on the Chicago White Sox and probably didn't get to use it very much. But Moving on to my fourth favorite bat, which probably would have been higher, but I saw it used a lot. And it was the number 2 pencil bat, the Ticonderoga. Uh, this is a really cool bat, especially when you see guys like Ryan Jeffers go yard with it. But this was used by guys like I already said, Ryan Jeffers, Ernie Clement, MJ Melendez. I think Schwarber might have used it as well, but I'm not too sure about that. It's a cool bat. I think anybody who plays the show loves this bat. So I was really happy to see a lot of players using it, but just not the most creative, when you have multiple different people using it. But I think it's one of the cleanest and coolest bats to look at when you're on the field. It just kind of makes sense. Wooden bat, wooden pencil. Why not? The players look super excited to use the bat as well. No matter the fact that it was used by multiple different people in multiple different series across the league this weekend, it was really cool to see players step up to the plate with a Ticonderoga pencil. That was pretty funny. But moving on to the next bat, this one was hard to rank this low, honestly, and I had to piece the images together because the Padres didn't post an image of it. Padres, if you're watching this, you're not watching this, but if you are, you should have posted a picture of Jackson Merrill's bat because I had to go ahead and do this. Just piece it's like I'm making a puzzle together, but only fitting Jackson Merrill being on the background there right next to his custom bat for Players Weekend. The blue lightsaber, the top image is what the bat looks like in the dark. So it is a glow in the dark bat. And then the bottom is like, the control handle or whatever for the lightsaber. This bat's sick. This is just such a cool bat. I kind of figured someone was going to do a lightsaber bat, but the fact that Merrill did it as a glow in the dark bat is a really solid touch, and it just shows how much attention to detail these younger guys really have, and to putting together the pieces that they use for these games. It's really cool, and I personally really enjoyed seeing this bat getting thrown around social media all the time. I've said it like 3 straight episodes, man, but I'm just here for all of the Jackson Merrill praise. He's been so much fun to watch all season, but that bat's so cool. And, it was close to being my second favorite, but this one really just was super cool to me. I don't know why, but maybe it's the picture that they took for this because the Mets really did a good job with this. Harrison Bader, I'm going to try and make this picture a little bigger for you guys, honestly, but Harrison Bader had one of the coolest bats I think I saw all weekend. As you can see, it's a pink crayon, and Bader's always been a colorful guy, a really flashy player for somebody who doesn't get as much praise for being a flashy player. And having all the pink gear, the pink Mets shirt, and then having that bat to go along with it is so cool. That's everything that Players Weekend should be. You showing out your personality, your favorite colors. We'll touch on a little bit more on that before we transition out of this topic. But I mean, this is just perfect for Bader. The bat looks so cool, especially with the jersey in that pick. I just really like it. We saw some home runs with some crayon bats this weekend, and this is one of my favorite because I love the pink bat on Mother's Day. I think it's a really awesome touch to the game, and being able to have something similar with a crayon right here that just matches all of his like batting gloves and accessories. It's so cool. I just think it's perfect for Harrison Bader. And I just think the best one by far was Michael Harris and his Spider-Man custom Old Hickory bats because personally, the Old Hickory wooden bat is just my favorite as a whole. It's a classic. I remember, I think Mike Trout still uses them, but I mean, these are just super cool. I would have liked to see maybe like a Venom custom bat if he could have maybe afforded 3 of them. I don't know. Harris just came back from injury, so it's awesome to see him come up with a cool custom bat like this. The red one's super cool, and then the yellow one obviously is really cool as well. But some really, really nice Spider-Man custom bats there from Michael Harris. I mean, like the right one's just like that one's really, really cool. I would love to see like these players get a chance to actually like produce these bats and market them, like mass produce them maybe. Like, I mean, just the Old Hickory logo with the Spider-Man pattern, that just looks so clean. I wish more players would have gone that route. But if you guys didn't see the Colorado Rockies players, they all had really cool bats as well. Really cool bats that were just true to where they came from. Forget one of their players had a Memphis-themed bat from where he played at school. And then Michael Toglia had an Italian flag-themed bat. And that's working for him because he's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last week. But I'm going to move down to the top 100 prospect list, things that surprised me from there, because we only have about 13 minutes left. I want to make sure I get to my picks for today as well, because I haven't done that on the show in a while, and I've been doing that a lot as written content. So I want to make sure I get them out before on the show, before I publish that in written form afterwards. But let's just get right into the top 100. So the top 100, I mean, it's great. It really is. It's awesome to see these players get ranked before they're coming up to the bigs, and you get like a comparison for all of them or whatever. But when they update the newest draft picks into the last year's prospect list, it just like, I always have a problem with it. I always have some problems as to where certain players are placed. And we're going to talk about that right now. I have all of their prospect profiles pulled up as they're freshly integrated onto MLB Pipeline. But this was a ridiculously deep prospect list for the top 100 from what I was seeing. Maybe that's just because I really zeroed in on a lot of these prospects before the draft. So I mean, I guess I know some of these players, and not everybody's going to look at this and think this is a very deep list, but I'm telling you it is. And in the offseason, I'm going to be ranking my own top 100 prospect list, and we're going to be able to see really where these new draft guys meet up with these players from this season. But it's going to be a really fun list, and I can't wait to do that for you guys. But I mean, there's a lot of surprises for me here in terms of where these new guys ranked, especially. Uh, there are some movers in terms of guys who've been on the list already, but this is mostly going to be new 2024 draft guys. And getting right into it, I mean, the number one overall pick being at number 13 really surprised me. Travis Bazzana out of Oregon State gets assigned to high A and has been pretty damn good there, but just hasn't gotten the praise for it, and is really not better than Jordan Lawler. I don't know about that, man. I really don't know. 70 grade hit tool, 55 power, which I think is a little low. 60 grade run, that's about fair. And then 50 arm, I think, is fair at second as well. Man, Bazzana's not a 60, bro. That's all right. I mean, I'm sure he'll be a riser, but it just sucks to see a guy that, you're so high on going into the draft not really getting the praise, because I thought he was going to be a top 5 prospect, honestly. But I'm sure he will be in due time. We'll just have to see. But my next one, I mean, I don't know really how much I love seeing Hagen Smith here at what was he at? I think he's at 32. Yeah, he's at 32. This is really just an odd one for me to see, and I'm a little out of order with these graphics, so you're just gonna bear with me on some of these. But I mean, 32 just seems very low for Hagen Smith. I don't know really why he was brought down this low, considering he was the first pitcher taken, or no, the second pitcher and like one of the best pitchers thought of to be in the college baseball world last year. Golden Spikes finalist. I mean, I thought he would have been higher on this list a lot. I mean, looking at his grades, 65 on the fastball and slider. I mean, I think that's solid enough to get him top 30. I mean, you could argue he has better stuff than Chase Dollander, who's in 23, but I think, that'd be a little bit crazy. But yeah, just having him there at that spot surprised me, especially when the White Sox reached on him for 5. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how Hagen Smith turns out for the Chicago White Sox and where he rises in the prospect rankings. But Jack Caglione at 18, man, there's not 17 players in the top 100 better than Cags. There's no way. Power tool at 70. Hit at 55 is ridiculous, by the way. His hit tool should be a 65 to 70. The arm at a 60 for a first baseman is very fair, but he can throw 99 on the mound. I think we should give him like a 70 arm, maybe. I mean, honestly, this prospect grade is kind of not there at all. I think it's really disrespectful to Cags' game, and I think he's going to be a big riser in this list. And another guy who I was surprised to see be where he's at is Brandon Sprout, which was Cags' former teammate, sitting at 40. He's been like one of the best pitchers in the entire minor leagues this season. I'm a little upset I left Syracuse before I got to see him play for the Syracuse Mets, but you could see his stats there. I mean, a 2.55 ERA, 116 Ks. Opponents have a sub 200 batting average against him. I thought he'd be like, I honestly thought he'd be like top 30 by now. But that is what it is at this point. I'm sure Sproat will rise again, but I mean, I just don't know how much higher they're going to put him if he's having this type of a season and he's this low. But moving down further in the list, we have got a guy who I didn't expect to get taken this early in the draft. It was initially I did, but then I didn't have him going that soon. It was Nick Kurtz, who is really off to a solid start right now. You can see he's hitting 400 in A ball and has that 960 slug, 571 on base percentage. And he's got 4 home runs, so he's just mashing right now. This is a guy who probably should have been assigned to the high A level and could make it up to the double A level. He's going to work a little bit slower through the Oakland system, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. I think he's going to be an incredibly solid first baseman for them for years to come. But moving on to the first high school pick in the draft, he's at 55, Connor Griffin. And this made sense to me at first, and then I looked at his tools here, and 50 hits all right, 60 power is good, 65 runs good, and then a 70 arm. I'm like, where is this kid getting a 55 overall from? To me, he's a little bit better than that, and I think he should be at least a top 50 prospect, being the best high school player to come out of this draft. I just think that's fair. I mean, Max Clark was way higher than that. And given that is Max Clark, I think it's fair to treat Connor Griffin to a bit of a similar standard, given he was the better high school player or the best high school player to come out of the draft this year. Just didn't make much sense to me. But player at 80 is really surprising to me that it's Christian Moore, really just because Christian Moore has been off to such a good start. You see the numbers, 2 teams in across single A and double A, 414 batting average, a bunch of extra base hits already, 58 at bats and a 1245 OPS. He's been outstanding. Nothing I could say about Christian Moore that's bad. He'll be up for the Angels most likely this season. And then the last guy that surprised me just sneaking into this top 10, or this top 100, I should say, was Florida State alum, ACC Player of the Year, James Tibbs III, who I just thought the Giants got an absolute steal on. The power at a 55, I don't like it really that much. Everything else to me is honestly fine. So I get James Tibbs sneaking in here at one of the 90 spots, but I thought he could have been a little higher, maybe in the 80s. Just the power upside there to me is way too high. But he's the third-ranked prospect in their top 30 behind Bryce Aldridge and Hayden Birdsong. So I'm sure once Birdsong graduates the farm, he'll take up that top spot in the prospect realm, or possibly beat Bryce Aldridge to the majors and just have that number 2 spot, and then he's there. But those were the kind of notable surprises to me out of the top 100 update on MLB Pipeline. The only notable drop to me was Ethan Salas going from about, I think it was 10 to 20, or like 8 to 20, or top 10 to just being at 20 now. That's a phenom prospect that's so young that they had so much potential in, who just hasn't been great in high A this year. He's still obviously very young, so still a lot to come for him. But now with the last 5 minutes, I just want to kind of talk about my picks for today. I have 3 straight bets on 3 different MLB games, and then in those matchups, I've got another additional 2 props. I've been doing a lot of prop bets and just have kind of gone a little bit cold lately. So, we're just going to stick to our roots here, kind of what we did earlier in the show, and do a straight bet for each of these 3 games that I have, and then a couple props to go along with it. Personally, just haven't been the sharpest in terms of MLB picks, but MLB props this season around this time are always pretty tough. So with 4 minutes left, I'm just going to run through these picks and quickly why I like them. We're starting off with the Angels at the Royals. The Royals really need to keep it on track here if they want to get back to the division title. Royals minus 1.5 is a great play for me today. This is an easy opponent for them, and they need to capitalize. Seth Lugo over 5.5 Ks. When I checked, it was plus 114 consensus odds. That's great value. 12 Ks against the Angels in 1 game started against them. Rendon was the only one with decent numbers against Lugo, and he's hurt. So he hasn't hit this line in a month, but that dry streak could very well be over today. and I'm willing to ride with it today if you guys are. Bobby Witt Jr. over 0.5 runs scored just seems free every single time it's hit in at least the last 4 games. The series needs to get off to a good start, and that only happens if Bobby Witt Jr. is playing to the level that he has been all year. If he's playing like an MVP candidate, it's going to be a very easy series for the Royals against the Angels. If not, it's going to be an uphill climb. But with a very depleted team, I'm worried about Logan O'Hoppe against Seth Lugo. I think that could be a bit dangerous. But other than that, don't really hate any of those picks at all. Twins at the Padres. I like the Twins plus 1.5 here just because the Padres are 0-4 in King's last 4 starts when their opponent scores 5 or more in their previous game. The Twins are 3-13 in their last 16 road games versus a team with a winning record, so I don't really like them to take the money line there. And the Padres are 1-4 in their last 5 interleague home games versus a team with a winning record. So I like the Twins on the run line here plus 1.5 because they got Zebby Matthews on the mound, who I like at over 3.5 strikeouts. He's one of the best prospects in Minnesota's system, and he's looking to deal again tonight. First start against the Royals was pretty good for him with 5 Ks, but first time against any Padres hitter could get ugly for him. So we'll see. Jose Miranda, 2 total bases. He's got good numbers against Michael King in a short sample size. That's really all you need to know there. Rays at the A's is my last play today, and I've got the under 7.5. I think Bradley's been pretty bad lately, but solid all year. I think he'll bounce back today against the A's, but I think he is going to allow more than 4.5 hits. I think he's going to limit the runs, but I think he's going to have more than 4.5 hits, and I think that 4.5 hits line is kind of perfect to keep him under that 7.5 run total as well. I think J.J. Bleday also gets a hit here today as well. He's got good numbers against Taj Bradley in a small sample size as well. But those are really all the picks that I've got. I really like the first 2 games, especially the Royals picks. I think those are going to be very, very solid picks. But honestly, I just want to watch Taj Bradley play tonight against the Oakland A's. And something tells me there's not going to be a lot of runs scored, especially with that under 7.5 line. But given that I said that now, there will be 22 runs scored in this game. But we're about at the end of time here. Didn't even need that mid-show break today. We just had a lot to get through, but I'm glad we were able to get through all of it. New power rankings post dropping on Bleacher Brothers socials tomorrow at about 7 p.m. That's going to be my goal moving on forward. And we'll have these picks out published in more detail for you guys later, probably in about an hour. For those of you who want to kind of lock in these picks and need a bit more explanation, not just me having 4 minutes at the end of the show to be able to give it to you, go to my link in the bio on my Twitter, T. Shulman Report, and you can see all of my picks on there in article form. That's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully we can get Drew back on the show here in the next coming episodes. But things are getting busy here as football season starts up and school starts up as well. So I'll be back on Thursday as always, but we'll see if we can get Drew on for that. But I will see you guys on Thursday at 2 p.m. as I always do. And we'll talk about what's been going on in baseball during the week, and I'll get you guys ready to get into baseball that weekend. So thank you all for tuning in today. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate it as well. Follow our socials at T. Shulman Report at Bleacher Brothers, and I will see you guys on Thursday.